Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Super excited to be here to teach you a little bit about Ethiopian cuisine. It's a very simple stew called split pea or kikalicha. The spice that you most likely going to need today is turmeric. I think every household should have it. It's actually very good having a turmeric tea mixed with ginger or anything like it. The split peas here, as I mentioned in the recipe, that we have about 1 pound, about 2 cups of split pea. This one is dry. I requested ahead of time, if you have the time right now, take your 2 cups split pea, soak it in warm water in a bowl if you can. And while it's soaking, what you will do, you're gonna take your 2 onions, garlic, and ginger and blend it in food processor. If you need some time, we can definitely wait. I just need to know the feedback. If you have all your ingredients ready, or are you going along to cook with me? I'm not sure. What is the situation, Shannon?
You just go ahead. Everyone's gonna follow along, and if we have questions as we go, I will throw them at you. So you go right ahead.
Okay, sounds good. So we pureed our garlic, ginger, and onion, and this is the consistency that you want to see, a puree of the 3 ingredients. You're going to take a medium-sized pot, put it on the fire, and then you're going to let your onions kind of dry out of the water. While it's there, we want to get rid of the water. And meanwhile, as I said, we have our split pea here soaked in water to get rid of any debris or anything like it. And actually soaking it somewhat expedites the cooking time. It makes it a little bit more softer. So instead of taking 45 minutes, it might take us half an hour in this case.
So Barhany, can I ask you one question?
Yes.
So Yvette wanted to know, do you add the onions to the pan without oil, or you
yes,
add
without oil? Let the water from the onions dry a little bit.
Okay.
And then within 5 minutes or so, right, you're gonna add your oil. What I'm adding here is a little bit of garlic that I had extra, but it should be blended together with your onions. Onion, garlic, and ginger blended together, okay? A nice pasty. That's what you want. And this is, so far, is already smelling nice. The water is drying. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but it's kind of drying out slowly. I'll give it a few more minutes, and I'm gonna add my oil.
So here's a question. Is kikalicha a dish that you would eat all year, or is this special for Passover?
It's something that you can eat all year round. My decision to make this as with you guys was basically because it's not a complicated dish. It's easy to make and very much Ethiopic. What we, as a kid, growing up in Israel, that was one of the first dishes. About I was 7 or 8 years old. I will make it with my grandma because it was so simple yet very delicious and nutritious. What we will do around Pesach, when Pesach comes, you can even use it as a spread on your matzah. Drizzle a little bit of chopped jalapeno or tomatoes, and it's a nice spread by itself. So it's versatile. It's not specifically for Pesach alone. It's throughout the year.
Interesting. That sounds really good on matzah.
Yeah,
I would never think of that.
Delicious.
That sounds really good.
It's very yellow, vibrant yellow. And you even can sprinkle it over a salad or anything like it. So, and it has vitamins, and together with the turmeric in it and the ginger, so it's very much gonna keep away any cold or flu somewhat. It's not 100%, but it can help you in terms of strengthening your immune system. As you see, it's cooking along. The color is changing slowly and is drying. I can smell the onions and garlic and ginger. Very delicious.
What, such a good smell.
I wish you guys could smell it from here. Right now, what I'm gonna do is I will add my oil. I mentioned half a cup, but you can definitely do it quarter a cup according to your likings. And here we are cooking it, and it's sauteing nicely. You basically want your onion, garlic, and ginger to soften and cook for about 10 to 15 minutes. I don't know if you can see it in a camera, but the color eventually will change to something to the green side because of the influence of the ginger.
We have a couple questions. If you could use another oil, could you use an oil like avocado oil or coconut oil?
Yes, definitely. Yes, you could. Yeah. I use canola oil or olive oil. One of those. And I think this is, it's easy to make dish. You're celebrating, especially for Pesach. We're talking about celebrating the exodus of the Israelite from Egypt. This year we have to be thankful for whatever, especially for our health. I think it will be great for people really to incorporate different dishes from the diaspora and celebrate the uniqueness and diversity within Jewish world. I think that will be wonderful, really. How do I learn about Ethiopian cuisine or Persian or what have you, in order for us really to be more inclusive and celebrating this unique cuisine and culinaries that Judaism have to offer throughout the Jewish diaspora. And as I said, this is not the ideal dish for Pesach for people who don't eat kitniot, but sometimes we have to kind of expand and really welcome and experience something a little bit more different. If you are a fully restricted person, you don't eat kitniot, I understand, but you definitely can do it another time for Shabbat dinner or anything like it. Just for you to taste what is it within Ethiopian Jewish food or cuisine, what they do, how they do. And this is a simple beginning for introduction for the beautiful and flavorful cuisines that we all can explore within the Jewish world.
What dishes are traditional during Passover, during an Ethiopian Passover? Are there certain special things that you make, or we would love to hear a little bit about that as well.
I would say a must do growing up, as an with the Ethiopian heritage. Every Pesach, my family will slaughter a lamb. It's a must-have for Pesach, and then we will make a lamb stew or the different parts of the lamb. But for Pesach, if you don't have a lamb, this is not Passover. Or my mom will make a unique, a traditional chicken stew, which is a dorowet as well, which takes about 3 to 5 hours to make it. Another unique aspect of Pesach, the other things we do is we make matzah. Back in the days, nobody really went to the store and bought their matzah. Every household used to make it at their kitchen, in their backyard. It's about like less than 20 minutes, a batter, the way the Israelite did when they were in a hurry to flee out of Egypt. You just mix the flour right away and a little bit of water and you bake it. You don't let it ferment. So that's how Ethiopian Jews celebrate and make their own matzah. So far, we're smelling very nice and delicious right now. My onion and garlic and ginger are changing color. Smells delicious. We're gonna give it a little bit more to change, so the onions and garlic, everything melt into one another. It's as I said, is everybody can do it together. Very simple dish. As I said, the spices that you're gonna need is turmeric, garlic, ginger, pepper, and salt. That's it. Very straightforward, not complicated. And that is another dish you can definitely say, I know how to make it. And for me, here in a restaurant as well, a lot of little kids that come and explore, they're 2 years old. One of their favorite dishes, split pea stew, the kikalicha, because it's not as spicy, but it's very bright and delicious. And they like to pick it up and eat it together with the injera.
For those who don't know, can you explain what injera is, and can you eat it during Passover?
No, injera, you cannot. Injera is the Ethiopian flatbread. It's fermented 3 to 5 days, so it's not kosher for Pesach. It's completely the opposite of the matzah. No, that's not a Passover food at all. But we use it as our plate, as where we dish all our stews, and this way you can scoop the dishes from, with the injera, and that kind of provide as the utensils and as food to eat. So that's the Ethiopian bread that usually every Ethiopian restaurant or household will make in order to scoop their food or stew. It's basically, in a way, if you know what is laffa or pita, but a little bit bigger with holes in it. That's the Ethiopian bread injera.
We have another question. Are there particular, specific things on an Ethiopian Seder plate that might differ from other traditions around the world?
If there are any particular,
is there a different haroset? Is there a different, we have, the egg and the shank bone, like, is it the same everywhere? I think many of us have never thought about that question before.
Yeah, I would say, for example, when I make my haroset, I will put a little bit of honey wine in it, together with the red wine, and a little bit of berbera, just to emphasize my Ethiopian cuisine and culture, but yet it's still the same haroset, but the different ingredients in it. If we're talking about the bitter herbs, we use, you can definitely sometimes, if you don't have, for the bitter herbs, you can use something like collard green that is closer to gomen, that would say replace the bitter herb. But other than that, it's very much the same, the traditional way of the Seder plate. Now we are definitely looking ready for the onion. I don't know if you can see, but the color is very much, the pot is very hot. If you see the garlic, onion, and ginger, they kind of merge to one another, and the color is changing to a greenish color. In this case, I'm gonna add my turmeric, about a tablespoon, and this way it will become very yellow. Can you see the pot clear, or how is it looking right now over there? Just the outside of it, Shannon?
Yes, we're just seeing the outside. So if you want to just hold it up for 1 second so people can see it.
Yeah, I do that. It's a bit on the hot side.
Yeah, no burning, please.
No. But this is what we want. As you see, very yellow right now.
Yeah.
The colors are getting together.
And it looks dry. Is that accurate? It's not very wet? Okay.
Yeah, remember we dry our water and everything. Now we are in a point where you can add a little bit of hot water, warm water, just for to help it dry into one another. I will show you as well soon enough. A little bit more water, and it's already smelling really good. You want to bring it to this kind of situation, you see? Can you see?
It looks like it's from here, it looks a little bit like it's a paste.
That's right, that's the paste, yes. Very pasty. I'm gonna let it integrate to one another a little bit, like about 5 more minutes. The important aspect of Ethiopian cooking is you basically want your onion kind of melting. This is how you do it. If you're gonna make split pea, if you're gonna make any other dishes, you want the onions to melt in and slow cook for a while. That's the secret within Ethiopian cooking. So we're gonna do that for a little bit. I'm gonna add a little bit of water. Let it cook there for 5 more minutes. And remember, I asked you if you could soak ahead of time your split pea. Mine are really soaking here ahead of time. And actually by soaking the split pea, it expedites the process. So you wanna get rid of any debris or anything like it. So that's the best way to do. Whatever you're cooking, if it's red lentil, green lentil, or split pea, always wash it and let it sit for, and 30 minutes, it depends. So right now, I'm gonna get rid of my water, drain it. So you're gonna see something like a yellow color. Get rid of that. And my split pea right now, they are nice and even become a bit puffy, the rice.
Right.
My onion and garlic are cooking here nicely. What I'm gonna do, basically, I'm gonna add the split pea in. I'll do it this way.
So that's getting added to that onion and turmeric paste that you had started
Right.
earlier. There had been one
Yes.
question about when you add the water to the onion and the spices, about how much water. I know it's probably hard to estimate, right? Because you're used to knowing what it looks like.
So when I added earlier, I would say a couple, like a quarter of a cup, just to kind of make sure that the pot doesn't dry out. You just want to keep stirring it so the garlic and ginger don't stick to the pot. It's not a lot. Overall, you will want about 4 cups of water, warm water, to have it on a line. It doesn't mean you're going to use it all, but you will see according to if your fire is too high, it might dry fast. So you want to keep it on medium fire, right? And I'm going to add right now about 2 cups of water to your stew. After you add your split pea, you're going to add 2 cups of water and let it cook and simmer. And basically, it's going to do the job by itself. It's a very easy thing to do. It's almost you making a soup, but in this case, it's not a soup, it's a stew. And is the time you can add your salt and pepper, very simple. What I do is I mix my salt and pepper together, so I don't need to get 2 containers for it. So they are mixed together here.
Is your salt and pepper like half pepper salt? What's your salt to pepper ratio?
I will do the ratio that I usually do. I will do 2/3 salt, 1/3 pepper.
Okay, and you use black pepper or white pepper?
Black pepper. And I always have it ready on a go, so you don't need to worry of getting a salt and pepper. It's always mixed, nonetheless. So right now my stew is going there. We're gonna let it cook for a little bit and cover it. and let it simmer there for a bit. Here
Is
and there. Uh-huh.
Is it on a medium flame you said earlier?
Yes, a medium
Okay.
flame. You don't want to put it too high because it's going to burn. And every 5 minutes or so, 10, you will go check it out and you keep stirring it. But otherwise, the job is almost done. It's quick, it's easy to make. You don't need to do, it's a process that you have to watch up your pot. Make sure you stir it. You add some salt and pepper if necessary, a little bit of water, but it's not a complicated process.
Another question that came in is are you using kosher salt?
No, it's still a fine salt is fine.
Okay, so a fine salt is better.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Super helpful. So I had a question for you before that I asked about an Ethiopian tradition I had heard about at some point when I was in Israel, was that some people break their plates before Passover and create new ones as the holiday begins. And I wanted to know if I had learned that accurately, if that is a tradition in the Ethiopian community.
Yeah, it's accurate information. And back in Ethiopia, majority of the households will make their own plates, pots, and mugs, and everything else. So the unique tradition within our community is when Pesach comes, you will make new pots and dishes and all of that stuff to welcome the spring and welcome Pesach and all of that stuff. On the way, you will break your own all pots and dishes. And the reason behind it is since clay absorb everything that you cook in it, just to be cautious so there is no chametz for this year, people will take and break it and make new dishes. So it's very relevant and accurate. Do people do it now in Israel? No, because you use glass, you use different type of ceramic that is not really observing much of the food or whatever spices you use. So when people live in Ethiopia, yes, they did that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We had another very specific question earlier. You mentioned Dorawat, Ethiopian and chicken dish that is very traditional as well. You said it takes several hours to make. And we had a question from Sri who asked if in place of using kibbeh, which he says is like clarified butter, what do you use instead of the clarified butter?
Actually, I do not use butter in my Dorawat. It really depends. Okay, so within Ethiopian Jewish cooking, we don't add our clarified butter to our chicken or to our beef or or whatever it is there, because you mix in dairy and meat. So if whatever you got the recipe from, it's maybe non-Jewish or secular person that don't observe the dairy and meat separation. But in my case of instead of the clarified butter, the kibbeh, I would recommend for you to use either olive oil, canola oil, those oils, and it will come fine. As I said, the secret behind the Dorawat or any Ethiopian stew is really how long you cook your onions so they melt into one another and become a very like a thick sauce. So the butter is not essential. You can definitely go without it if you have the recipe for the Dorawat.
Thank you. That's super helpful. Sri, I hope that you're happy that you got your question answered now. I just put in the chat if there are other questions that anybody has. Now is a good time because the lentils are cooking, so we can ask Chef Barhany any other questions that you might have about Ethiopian cuisine or Ethiopian Passover traditions. I'm also going to share an article that one of our writers wrote about Chef Barhany and the restaurant. Sophia wants to know, this is a great question. What is the topic of your cookbook? And do you have any idea when it will be out?
Still working on it.
Okay.
Of course, it's celebrating Ethiopian Jewish cook. That's the topic of the cookbook. Yeah, working on it, and we'll let you know. I will contact you when the book is ready to publish, and eventually people can come and support. But the children's book actually is about a unique holiday called Seder. I don't know if many of you heard of it. It's actually become a national holiday about 8 years ago in Israel. It's a day where Ethiopian Jewish community go up to a higher mountain, nowadays in Jerusalem, and they pray. Half of the day is devoted to praying, giving thanks, and the second half is basically having a festive meal, which you include a lot of delicious stews, chicken, lamb, and beef.
I did not know that. That's really interesting. Another question that just came in, I think you answered this before, but just further clarification. Do you use teff flour or grains during Passover, or do you consider them kitniot?
Yeah, you actually can use teff flour to make your matzah, and that will be gluten-free. The other aspect of it is like basically like quinoa. Quinoa, it's good. You can use it throughout Pesach. It's not considered as a chametz. I'm not sure. I'm not a rabbi. I really don't know what is the rule about it right now. But to my knowledge, you can definitely use teff and quinoa if you are a person who eat rice and the rest of the kitniot.
Oh, here's another great question from Talia. She said, you know, during this time, a lot of people during the pandemic, right, are trying to cook and bake new things. And she tried to make injera, and it was an epic fail. Do you have any suggestions for how to make injera at home?
Yeah, dear, it's a whole complicated process. It's really, I understand you, and it's tough process to go through. But I eventually I hope we'll be able to execute something in the future where it will be easy, but nonetheless, you will have to ferment your, either if it's a wheat flour or your teff flour, for at least 3 to 5 days. You have to let it sit there and make sure it's clean. Whatever liquid float on the top, you have to get rid of it and add a little bit of warm water. It's an artisanal process to make injera. So I am working on something to see if there is any way we can create injera within maybe 2 days to 3 days rather than 5 days. We'll let you know when I get there, but I would love, eventually we'll be able to share it in the future. But you have to keep trying. Make sure you keep your batter in a warm place. If it's in a kitchen cupboard, so it kind of ferments nicely. And eventually, when you're ready to bake it, it becomes nice and fluffy. But yeah, it's a long ordeal to master making the injera.
I would just say, first of all, great trying something new, and keep at it, right? Eventually you'll get it. You'll figure it out.
For sure, yes.
So, a question from Serene, who asked, is there a particular Ethiopian tradition around celebrating the end of Passover?
Not that I recall. Basically, making sure the last meal, a lot of other Jewish communities do different tradition, and if it's the Moroccan doing the mimuna, but within Ethiopian Jewish community, there is nothing. We just have a festive meal with lamb, chicken, beef, you name it. Ethiopian are very much, when it comes to Pesach, it's a lot of lamb eaten, and in different stews and different style, if it's spicy, non-spicy. Other than that, there is nothing different or festivity going on at the last day of Pesach. Our stew is evolving nicely. I wish you guys, I don't know if you could see it from far, but you know, the split pea are somewhat becoming nice and soft. At this point, you can definitely see what's the flavor like. If you need a little bit of salt or anything like it, you're good to go. I will drizzle a little bit more salt and pepper in it and cover it and just let it cook and do the job. If it's taking too long, you can definitely increase your fire, but just watch, make sure it doesn't burn, keep stirring it. If it's drying out, add a little bit more water.
And the consistency of the stew is a little bit to your liking as well. Some people like it more thin or more thick. Is that true or no?
No, you know, if it's too thin, it's gonna be a soup like. At this point, what you want is very thick stew. You'll see the split peas expanding and somewhat in the point where they are cooked well, they're kind of melting, they become creamy. So it's going to take us a bit for them to get to that point right now. That's why it's very important to make sure that you don't spend hours for the split pea. Soak your split pea ahead of time, and it would definitely will expedite your cooking process.
Okay, that's helpful. And from start to finish, this is a pretty quick dish, right? So it's taking like 30 minutes from, what would you say?
I would say it will take about 30 minutes to 45 minutes, give or take. Yeah, okay. It really depends, you know, on the fire and everything else. But it's very easy, straightforward, yet delicious and very bright color. The other thing I wanted to emphasize in terms of Ethiopian tradition of celebrating the Pesach, what I recollect as a child, especially, you know, in Israel, was, you know, one of those moments that family gathering. We will have about 30 to 40 people coming and celebrating Pesach. It was a very joyous moment. You know, in reflection to what's going on today, I definitely miss that. You know, being with family, about, you know, as I said, 30 to 40 people at my grandma's house. And for that, we will have about maybe 2 to 3 lambs, because we all stay there for almost a week, and, you know, sleeping on top of one another in a way, very crowded, but yet the time of closeness and hugging and kissing family members, it's kind of something that definitely we will have to cherish for future generation, because this year, last year, Pesach, it wasn't a given for us. So that's something I wanted to share with you guys. And I hope within a year or two, we'll be able to gather with our family members and celebrate the time of exodus, of freedom, and from slavery to be a free person.
Are there traditions that you have adopted since living in the United States, or that have changed at all from your Ethiopian Israeli sort of background? Or have you tried to keep your Passover as traditional as possible?
I would say I don't do much of a second Pesach, for example. First night of Pesach, that's one thing I do. One night is enough. I wasn't brought up into the tradition of doing 2 Pesachs and stuff like that. The other thing we will do is every cooking, majority of the different stews and dishes and salad, of course, you will find Ethiopian influence in it. If it's the rice that we eat, you will have a little bit of different Ethiopian spices like cardamom and cumin and stuff like that, and ginger in our rice. But I know a lot of within, you know, Ashkenazi North American Jewry, those things are not, they are not eaten within their tradition, or whatever it is. But if there is anything other than that, no, beside the second day that I don't do, everything is as typical. And of course, for Pesach, my kids love using the split pea as a spread on their matzah, or what else we do? We do a lot of matzah scramble with smoked salmon and caramelized onion, something that is very much, I would say, the influence of smoked salmon in North American jewelry that I kind of incorporate within my life living in New York. That's the influence I have. Smoked salmon is part of my integral. Yeah, that's another aspect that is, I wasn't doing it in Israel or something that I can. The lax and bagel thing that kind of influenced me to incorporate that into my tradition somewhat.
It's so that's a uniquely American Jewish tradition of bagels and lax. But I said you're a New Yorker now, so how could you not eat lax? It's very important.
There you go. And don't forget that, not just that, I do it in Pesach, but we do it throughout the year at Zion, where we do scrambled egg, caramelized onion, and we serve it on Injera bread. So we always incorporating where we are, where I am, and celebrating and honor that culture, that tradition. So that's how we do it here at Zion Cafe somewhat.
So there's another question about the restaurant. Somebody wants to know, do you guys have anything special for Passover at the cafe that people can take out?
This year, not really. It's not, if you're strictly observant of the Pesach, we don't keep it, we're not going to be kosher for Pesach here. We will have our bread, Injera bread, which is not kosher. So if you are strictly observant, it's not the environment you want to buy anything from. Or most likely, usually what I do throughout Pesach, I try to keep it to stay closed, but we will see what happened, especially with COVID. A lot of things change. So, we're not determined what to do. But usually previous years, we always kept it closed for Pesach because I felt like this is the time you want to relax, rejuvenate, and come back and have something new. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. You see now, the water is kind of drying in the pot. So I'm going to keep adding more water. And it seems like the stews are getting very soft. I'll take one. It's getting there. It's a bit on a crunchy side, but is within 15, 20 minutes, I think it will be ready. But we definitely can add more salt and pepper to your taste. And we're just gonna stir it. Let me see if I can bring the camera here so you can see how it looks like, okay? 1 second.
Sounds good, thank you. So unlike, if you're making rice, you don't want to keep stirring it, but with this dish, you want to keep stirring it.
Yeah, you don't want it to stick. So this is how we have it here. You see, it's getting thick.
But there's still quite a bit of liquid, and you just added more liquid, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to cover it, and it's going to be nice and thick. Cover it, let it simmer there some more. But that's what you want.
Okay. And I can see it's not a hard boil. It really is just a little bit of bubbling, simmering, right?
That's right. Yes.
Okay. And it's common for you when you're making this, you're tasting it as you go. So you're adding a little bit more seasoning as you're going.
That's right. I'm adding a little bit of salt and pepper just to see, because it's expanding, as I said, and you're definitely going to need some good flavor. And we added the turmeric. That's why it's very bright yellow, as you saw. And when we're getting closer, I will definitely bring the camera closer. This is still new to me, but eventually, soon enough, I will master all of this thing.
I know we always have to learn new stuff.
We are, yes. So do you see this better? I don't know. Hopefully it's a better feedback for everybody.
I think so, right? You guys can nod or share. This is, you can see what the stew is looking like now.
Yeah.
And just as a reminder, you did onion that was in the food processor, right? It was like
onion, garlic, and ginger. Yeah.
Okay. And then the turmeric.
Yes.
It's a very simple recipe.
Very much.
And then at the end, you're adding jalapeno, right? To your, if you like it spicy.
Yeah, but you see, the jalapeno is not gonna make it that spicy at all, because it's so much stew that, you know, it's a one piece of jalapeno, not gonna do anything to anybody. But if you're scared, you can, you know, if you don't like it spicy at all, cut a few slices. I like to do it. Let me see if I can. I cut it usually lengthwise. 1 second.
We had a couple of questions. If you've ever made this dish in a pressure cooker or in a crock pot, to control the cooking or to do it faster.
And I haven't. That's a good idea, actually, because that will make it faster. It will cook, definitely will cut our length of time. Never, but I think it's worthwhile definitely experimenting on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Great. You guys go test it out and report back to Chef Barhany. Let us know.
Yeah.
I like a crock pot, but a pressure cooker scares me. So I don't have a lot of experience with that.
So as you see, we are doing very well here. The split pea are kind of, it's nice and soft. It's not as crunchy as earlier. And the salt and pepper is good. But if I wanted a little bit more on the salty part, I would add a little bit more here.
Somebody wants to know if you can use green split peas for the same cooking method.
You could, definitely you could, but the reason I did the yellow is the good, it's gonna make, especially with the turmeric, it's gonna elevate it and make it very nice and bright. But with the green one, same process, it's just a different color. And I wonder how it's gonna look. It's gonna be very green in a way, even though you add your turmeric to it.
And green lentils can also be a little bit thicker than a yellow split pea, right? Or I guess if you're using green split pea. I guess I've never cooked with green split peas before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nonetheless, I think they will be still delicious. Yeah, okay. That's a different color.
Everybody's got to be so difficult. Just use the yellow split peas. Come on.
No, okay. It's all right. If you like the green ones, go for it. Let us know how it came about.
Gail, just to answer your question, how and when will the recordings of these classes be shared? We're going to do our best to be uploading them into YouTube over the course of the next week. But just as a reminder, this recipe already exists on the Nosher. I'll share it again in the chat. So if you didn't catch every single step, it's already written down. Yay. So you can save it, you can print it, and you can make it. And I think after watching Chef, first of all, I have to make this dish for my kids now. They're going to love it. And I think it will be, much easier to make it once you saw it. So I'll share it right now in the chat so you have it nice and handy.
Just to give regarding the jalapeno, you can definitely, you see, that was a whole jalapeno. I cut it in 4 pieces. If you don't, what make the thing spicy is the seeds. So you can definitely get rid of the seeds, and it is not going to make your stew spicy at all. But yet, it's going to give it a good flavor. Okay, I hope you can see me here. So you can definitely get rid of the seed, and adding that as is to the pot will make it a nice flavor, but it's not going to make it spicy at all. So at this point, as you see, let me see how we're looking here. It's thickening nicely. Just to give it a good flavors, I'm gonna cut my jalapeno to small pieces, and it doesn't have to be, you put it in, and if you don't like the spice later on, you can definitely take it out. So what do you want it to look like? As you see right here, chunky pieces of the jalapeno in there, and let the flavor integrate nicely. As you see, the water is as well drying out. You can lower down your fire a little bit and cover it. And within 5-10 minutes from now, I think we're about ready. We have our delicious split pea stew, and you can scoop it with matzah. You can drizzle it over a salad, and you always, keep it in the fridge, and easily you can add it to any dish that you like, if it's with the chicken, meat, or fish as a side dish.